From the bogs, the vines, to the berry, cranberries are one of the most unique fruits, and its industry influences the economy and character of southeastern Massachusetts. Cranberries are so important that there is an entire department, an entire facility dedicated just for their survival. That place is nowhere but right here in Wareham. Just off Spectacle Pond Road at One State Bog Road in East Wareham stands the UMass Cranberry Station. This affiliate of the University of Massachusetts Amherst traces back to 1911 under the guardianship of Dr. Henry Franklin. For longer than 100 years, the station has been conducting experiments and research on behalf of the cranberry industry in Massachusetts.
Our whole mission is to really provide whatever horticultural resources and solutions that the growers need in order to remain viable within this area, and to also have environmental stewardship, so that we, think about the citizens that live in this area and the impact that our industry has.
Using experiments, the center helps farmers to be flexible with the industry's demands. Currently, farmers are under pressure to produce a certain quality of berry, distinguished by color and firmness, a task that has fallen on Dr. Giverson Mupambe.
But sometimes what we've noticed in the past seasons that growers are struggling to get that color. So these plant growth regulators that we're thinking about, we're thinking specifically of abscisic acid, which has been shown to improve the anthocyanin concentration. So anthocyanin is the pigment that gives the fruit its red color.
Dr. Mupambe is searching for whether improving formation of anthocyanin may produce the right shade of redness. Furthermore, he is studying canopy management.
Because the other factor when you think about fruit colors, you need light penetration into your canopy. How much light penetration do you get in the canopy, and does that result in a more uniform coloring within the canopy? So normally if you go in the canopy and you open it up, you find that the berries at the bottom of the canopy, usually they struggle to color up, even when you have like a nice uniform red color on the top. And we think some of that has to do with the lack of light penetration into the bottom of the canopy.
There is also the challenge of climate change. Take anthocyanin, for example. The color pigment is triggered by light penetration, but mostly by cooler temperatures. Our most recent winters haven't been favorable.
I don't know if you remember last September, we probably had 6 or 7 nights. It didn't go below 70 degrees, and that's way too warm. And so what's happening is that the color doesn't develop, and the handlers want you to bring in a fruit that has a certain amount of red pigment, because that's what cranberries are known for. So you're waiting for the color development, but the longer the fruits stay out in the bog, the greater chance that they're going to lose quality, because they're going to start succumbing to fruit rot.
The abundance of rainfall also has proved irresponsible, at times flooding the vines, which can lead to fruit loss. Though irrigation is important, specifics matters, as Dr. Peter Jerenyama explains.
You can't grow a plant without water. But then the question becomes, how much water do we need to put in there? Because we have a tendency of over-irrigating. Like, there's this notion that cranberry requires 1 inch of water a week, 1 inch of water per week. But that is not based on any scientific reasoning.
So Dr. Jerenyama and his colleagues have come up with something called evaporated demand, a way to determine the exact amount of water needed at a given time.
Right here, I'm carrying one of the sensors. This is called a tensiometer. You can view this like a big, a giant root in the soil. So it has a ceramic tip. So having a ceramic tip, so you put this device in the soil, and the water is going to be absorbed through the ceramic tip. And the amount of water that is taken into the cylinder will equate to a certain amount of pressure that will be recorded on a recording device. So we've come up with a relationship between stress levels based on the tension that you get in the soil. So the wetter the soils are, the lower the tension is going to be. And the drier the soils are, the greater the tension is going to be. So that's why we know when it is too wet or when it is too dry.
The center is also helping farmers harvest berries that can make the weight. Currently, the incentives start at $4.55 to $5.50 kilogram per millimeter. What have you seen in terms of maybe trends with pesticides? What is threatening the berry at the moment?
So our trends with pesticides have been moving away from very toxic, broad spectrum, particularly insecticides, to things that we call reduced risk, that are more targeted.
We do have some cranberry insects that are pests, and a lot of them. Because it's a native fruit, we have 25 different insect pests. He's rolled up because he's been eating cranberry all day. There's a gypsy moth there and then another cutworm. Cranberry weevil is a tiny insect that has been causing a lot of trouble this year. We do have to put on sprays to manage these insects, or they will eat all of your flowers and you will get no cranberries. So in entomology, we have 25 or 30 different insects that we're always thinking about, and there are new insects like scale. If you can imagine that you have your upright and there's something that looks like that on there, so you can't even see it unless it's under the microscope. This is a new insect that we haven't seen in 80 years, so that one's kind of cool. And right now the crawlers, little babies, are being released out of there, so that's another problem for the growers.
Why are they coming back after 80 years?
Either because there's climate change and good conditions for them, or we're not using broad spectrum pesticides anymore where we're spraying and killing everything so that there's the opening for them, or we have new varieties that are softer tissued and give them the option. We don't know.
Are there any pesticides that are good for the berry?
We do have a number of insecticides now that instead of being broad spectrum, they're specific to the insect. And yes, the one that we have, cranberry fruitworm, which is a little moth that lays its egg on the berry as it's developing, we have a new compound called Altacor that doesn't hurt bees, doesn't hurt us, but targets just that fruitworm. So we feel that that's the magic new insecticide that we have that has really helped us out. Of course, it costs about $50 an acre, so it's expensive for the growers.
The services and research conducted here are available to farmers for free. The center helps farmers connect to the bottom line on the cost saved and the money made if they choose to implement the knowledge. But lately, knowledge hasn't been enough as the industry faces substantial doubts. Would you say the industry is flourishing?
No, not at all. The industry is very much struggling at this time because there's an oversupply of fruit, and so prices are depressed. And so it's predicted that for the majority of the industry this year, growers will be paid less per barrel than it costs them to produce that barrel. So we figure it costs maybe $25 to $30 a barrel to produce it. Growers are probably going to be paid $20 or less. So they'll actually be losing money for every barrel of cranberries that they produce.
So then they come to you and they from what you told me, the industry is struggling. They're facing an enormous amount of stress from the handlers.
Yep.
So what do they say to you?
And what do we say to them? I mean, you know, what's really hard about this industry is that we know a lot of our growers. I mean, you know, some of them are friends. At least
growers are pushed to diversify in order to supplement their income. Currently, an area of interest is on renewable energy. Tell me about the research when we're looking at renewable energy. How does it fit in with the cranberry bogs?
So, well, and then again, that's a great question. If you drive just down 495, you'll see that there's some windmills out there. So some of the growers are looking into wind energy, again, to supplement their farm income, which is on a downward trek, unfortunately. And then solar farms are something that some growers are looking at. There's the dual use SMART program, which the state is looking for, trying to provide some ways for farms to diversify so they can have alternate forms of income. So that's one way. It's still very much in a fledgling state. You know, there are not any cranberry projects yet where they're still trying to grow cranberries with the solar panels on top of them.
To briefly summarize the UMass Cranberry Center, think of it as a hospital, strictly for the cranberries. Whether you are a grower or just a consumer, there is so much to be learned about this northern native perennial berry.
So it seems like there are a lot of cool things that are happening here. I will call them miracles, but how far can your work extend? What can you not do in regards to the berry?
Well, as far as us specifically here, we don't do any genetic breeding here. A lot of that work is going on down in New Jersey at Rutgers University or out at the University of Wisconsin. So they actually have breeding programs because, as you could imagine, with a perennial woody fruit, it's a long-term commitment to be able to do that. And so we felt as the industry, it's expensive, and just to have it located in those two areas works well. We don't do anything that involves product development. You know, food science, we specifically don't do those kinds of things, nor anything directly related to health benefits. So we're really very horticultural, production, pest management oriented.
The center's current projects include, but not limited to, researching solar panels on cranberry bogs, using drones to map plant stress in order to evaluate irrigation techniques, understanding the biology of scale, all while keeping an eye on climate change.